You are listening to DC On Screen.
Oh, sitting down for another DC On Screen with my buddy Jason. I'm Dave, of course.
Jason?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We just wanted to talk about this WB write-down that came out last week and what it might mean.
Get right down to how downright crappy it was.
So they announced a $9 billion write-down.
Mm-hmm.
And the
with
company's
a B.
cable...
With a B.
Yeah, with a B. With a B. The cable networks are declining like hell. The company's cable channels... This company is built off of cable networks, basically. It was their biggest profit makers. Now they're worth $9 billion less than estimated. The stock dropped below $7 per share. The company's overall value dropped by 70% in the last 2 years. 70% in the last 2 years. Like I said, most of their revenue came from cable networks like Discovery and TLC and TNT and Cartoon Network. And I'm sure you've heard about how Cartoon Network just quietly shuttered and they moved all their content over to Max.
Strange days
Makes
indeed.
sense. That part makes sense.
It does.
They lost the TNT rights to NBA.
More importantly.
The basketball.
Yeah.
That was a big major revenue source.
Yeah.
They still have $38 billion in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Their most valuable assets are HBO and the IP. As far as like Harry Potter, Batman, DC, that shit, you know. So, without NBA rights, TNT's schedule is pretty much just old movies, old TV shows. And this is, across the board, by the way. Paramount Global is also going through this.
Yeah.
They have they've had a huge decline in cable value. They shut down this Paramount Television Network, but the difference is they're getting bought out by Skydance Media.
Yeah.
In January. WBD does not have that.
They do not. Although they're getting cheaper by the hour. So
Cable
Lord only
TV,
knows.
predictions look like they're saying cable TV is going to become obsolete within the next year or two. And I don't know what they're going to do. Like, Zaslav is talking about licensing IP. We know that, Warner Brothers is looking at licensing games out more and more.
Yeah.
To other companies. But I think Warner Brothers might actually start selling off IP.
It's possible. They're not, let's put it this way. If we looked back at a few years, they're not substantially, different than they were before. I mean, not in any real way. If you look at this is what I remember about looking at this, how to talk out of my ass about it. But look, it looks like they're doing what they're going to do, and now it's low, and people are buying still, so it's not, there's a little bit of bounce. But the last year and the last 2 years both look bad, and they all look bad. But if you look back over 5 years, all 5 years look bad.
Yeah.
It's just dying. I mean, it's falling at the same rate over all of those years, short of some giant, way out of character spike in late 2020, early 21, where they were going to merge to Discovery, and
which that was March of 2021, and I know a lot of people like to post screenshots of those stock jumps and be like, Zack Snyder's Justice League came out in March of 2021. Yes, it did. But that's also when they announced the Discovery deal.
Yeah. And there's a rise for a few months in front of that's kind of, indicative of some optimism there. But that ended up being just kind of a false story. There's a nice, go look at a 5-year chart. There's a nice little peak there. And by nice, I mean completely absurd peak there. But, where you get a weird peak, you get a weird valley. So now I guess we're going to pay the price in 2024 for the overage there in some way. That doesn't really make sense in trading terms, but you know what I mean? Yeah. But, they just basically, kind of took off the mask, and there's really nothing there. That's where we're at? But the temptation is to blame Zaz off. But my only argument for him is that he's no worse than anything before him.
Yeah.
He seems to be basically doing the same pattern. They've just been losing half their value every year for however long, or whatever percentage that is. But it's the same slope. So basically the whole thing's just atrophying, and he's just pruning off little pieces of it, just like all the people in front of him.
Yeah, it just feels like the clothes have no emperor.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. At this point, there's no manufacturer for the clothes, and there's no kingdom for the emperor. I don't know what. I don't, no one was actually saying like, "Oh, it's dead." It's got plenty. It's not too big to fail either. It's got plenty of stuff still in the mix. But looking very closely at what's still left there sounds like a reasonable thing. What do they actually have to get rid of?
I mean, they can start selling off IP. Essentially, that's what I was saying with like their most valuable assets are HBO and their IP. So if they license IP out, especially if they're like, and I think that's their way out. I think they've got to say like they've got to get really into licensing. You got to start doing more toys, more posters, more interactive bullshit on phones, all that kind of stuff. Licensing it out to companies because they have a lot of valuable IP. And I'm not like a financial guru or, I mean, most might say, especially my bank account, I'm a dullard.
Yeah, we're terrible at this.
But at the same time, like, I don't see DC out there as much as I do Marvel. I don't see, Harry Potter as much out there as I do Marvel. Like, Marvel, they would shove their shit down your throat.
It is hard to ignore it.
So, to me, it seems like, make more things for people to buy. Mm-hmm. Like, it cracked me up, just the lack of, I won't say merchandise, but I'll say good merchandise when the Batman came out, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, they had a lot of stuff, but then, like, about 2/3 of it looked like shit. And was priced unreasonably.
Yeah, it was high.
For what it was. And I'm like, y'all, come on now.
I think that had to do with a little bit with just how realistic that film looks. It's hard to get it in toy form.
I mean, McFarlane did a good job. And outside of McFarlane, I would say, like,
those are so detail-oriented, though. And
like,
them in their way,
But McFarlane, as far as McFarlane toys, right? Like, they are the last step before you get to prohibitively expensive. Like, your average person isn't going to go out here and buy, like, an SH Figure Arts or whatever it is, or a Mofex figure, which are, like, $80, $90, that look just, like, dope as shit. But, like, for the people who go in, and they're looking for something for the kids, they're going to look at the McFarlane, which are now running at, like, $22, $23 a piece, and go, like, that shit's too expensive for him. That's just for an adult collector. What else do they got? And then, like, when they look, they've got, the only other thing they've got is, like, Spin Master, which is, like, fucking $15 for, like, a 3.75-inch figure that looks like utter garbage. Nah, man, you need to have, like, a $10 figure somewhere. You need to have a $10 figure somewhere, man. But kind of on that, on that line,
you want that middle ground. I know it's not the best it could look, but I can afford that shit. Just somewhere.
Yeah. But on that line, like, I've been really excited because I don't know if you've noticed or if you've been to a store. I've noticed them at Target. They have what they're calling DC Compact Comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you seen these? Like, it's like a little $10.
I've been curious. I saw these online and they look neat. I don't know a good word for it. It's a kind of a felt little form for this kind of fella.
Mm-hmm.
But they picked some good stories. I mean, I ran across it because I think Deceased ended up in that little hand-picked set they've got going on.
Not yet, they didn't. It's Catwoman, Trial of the Catwoman, American Vampire Book 1, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, Joker, that's the Brian Azzarello, Lee Bermejo book, Batman Hush, Wonder Woman Earth 1, All-Star Superman, Far Sector, Batman The Court of Owls saga, which is a neat little trimming.
Surprised it didn't fit in anything compact.
Yeah, and Watchmen. And that's what they have so far. But they're $9.99, and they partnered with Penguin Random House, and they are the size of manga, which are outselling comic books. And this is exactly what you and I talked about several years ago, about how they should be putting out whole sets of, like, here's a story, but in a compact form that kids can get into. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not $15, $20. It's not gigantic. Yeah, anyway. But I think that's a step in the right direction. But I do think that
I honestly thought they looked pretty cool. I would like if they weren't like $10 each, I probably would just. They look cool on a shelf.
Oh yeah, they do. They do look cool on a shelf.
I occasionally, I guess, you get something out of one of the big box designs. I don't know what happens, but occasionally you find something that's actually cool. I think this is it.
Yeah,
kind of like your Blue Beetle that you just were.
Oh yeah. The Superpowers McFarlane Blue Beetle bug. Yeah, I got that. It was
the Superpowers line. Is that exclusive to Walmart, or is it just I keep finding them there? I don't know where those are.
I think they are exclusive to Walmart. I don't know that I've ever seen them at Target.
I don't know where they are, or where they are or aren't. I just keep running them in that giant blue box. But like it's a cute little. I don't know, man. It's a neat little brand, cute little packaging.
It's a continuation
incredibly affordable. They seem to arrive at clearance aisles.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the 1980s Superpowers collection.
Yeah,
same packaging and everything. Like they've even re-released some of the vehicles and stuff, which is really neat. But yeah, I think they've got to really license out some of their IP. And unfortunately, cable TV is going the way of the dodo. Well, not unfortunately. It's unfortunate for them. It's not unfortunate for me because I've always hated cable.
Even when I, subsisted on it, I didn't love certain things, and as soon as I could get rid of them, I did. I mean, I had to watch something with commercials yesterday, and I just found myself muting it the entire time. I can hardly stand it anymore.
Oh yeah, you were right there. Well, sort of right. Like I was reading off what they've already put out in the DC Compact comics, but Tom Taylor announced that Deceased will be coming out in 2025.
That'll be it.
So that's what happened. That's what had happened, y'all. That's what had happened.
I'm often privy to either of them because of Tom Taylor and Gail Simone's constant barbing at one another.
Yeah. Well, I was on the Penguin Random House website reading what they had to purchase now.
You come at things at different angles. Some more bookish, some more jokes about Gail Simone being a bear.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
However one arrives. Happy to be there, right?
Oh, sure. But you know what? Honestly, these DC Compact Comics series, like, I'm so excited about these, like, because as soon as I saw them, I was like, oh my God, it's basically the Archie Digest.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a good idea. It's like, I lived off of those Archie comic digests, like the Jughead Jones digests and stuff that were like on the rack before you checked out at the grocery store. And they were only a couple of bucks back then, so like it wasn't much to get a parent to going, all right, damn it.
True. I was happy these weren't. It wasn't a Child's Play selection at all, but I feel like I could easily just go grab like 2 or 3 of those for $30, throw them at a 14-year-old, and just say like, "Here, you're welcome. This is a great start here." And I could just grab any 3 of those. Of all the ones you just read, it wouldn't matter.
Well, even our buddy Pud over on Twitter or X or whatever was saying that the manga is so much easier for his girls to read because they're smaller and they fit their hands better. Like his daughters have trouble with like the big graphic novels, like the normal sized graphic novels, and these are much more suited to someone who has small hands.
That is cool.
I'm down for this. I like this idea. But yeah, I don't know how to fix WB though.
No idea. Oh, and while you were going over one bit, I looked up the maximum part of that chart. It's been the same since 2013, actually. Between 2018 and the kerfuffle late in 21 or whatever, there's been like this little spike. It looks like basically where there was a max in streaming, there's been like this spike, and then everything settled back down. And since 2013, it's just been falling back. Is what the whole zoom out looks like. I don't know, man. It's not looking good. It just keeps losing every year.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to talk about financially, but that doesn't mean anything for the products that we're looking forward to. I know that makes that doesn't, and in a way that doesn't make sense, but like it doesn't mean they're going to sell Batman tomorrow to pay the bills. Like they also paid $12 billion off in the last 2 years. Like, that's not nothing. They are actually selling things because they're trying to make sure that they are in some way sound. So like James Gunn's 10-year plan isn't being outsourced in the coming weeks.
Yeah. I don't think they're selling DC. I don't think they're selling DC yet. Like, DC as a publisher, you're talking about, print is dead. Like that's not going to save them that much money. They're not going to get that much money.
No.
What they would get money for is actually selling the the IP, like the ownership of the properties that they're, making comics based on. So now it might be smart too, like just like what they're doing with Penguin over here, Penguin Random House. If they're licensing it out for different sorts of volumes, that makes sense. Even if they like sold or they license out the publication of the comics to somebody, that might make some sense. I don't know the legalities of it, but there's a lot they could do.
Well, hey, here's an amateur take of why not to panic, I suppose. And so if you're Warner Brothers Discovery right now, you don't. How much can you sell? How much can you actually just unload the warehouse, sell everything, including the warehouse itself, and still have anything that's worth keeping? If you actually just get rid of everything and fall apart, there's not going to be anything worth doing. So, if we get rid of DC in parts, it'll just fail. I don't think they're going to do a little bit like what Sony tried to do and failed at, or we're not going to get a hard to combine thing later. Is what I'm getting at. If they get rid of anything, it's probably going to be in a bigger chunk than we think. Yes, maybe the entire 10-year plan might sell rather than be done under WB. That's a possibility, but it'll probably sell as a whole picture in some way rather than just pieces of it. They can't afford to start over. Mm-hmm. At some point, you just have to actually sell that ship and hope it makes it.
Yeah. I don't know what all their assets are, obviously. I'm only really interested in DC.
Yeah, that's my point. Our interest in Warner Brothers is entirely because of the people they own, and then after that, it'll just be a curiosity.
Yeah. Last week, it says that Warner Brothers is looking to sell off their games division. It looks like Xbox is interested.
So is that point? Does that mean just Microsoft is interested? I thought that was still.
I guess.
Is that who still owns Xbox? It's been a long time since I've been a gamer, man.
Yeah, it would be Microsoft. I haven't
seen those logos in a minute.
It would be Microsoft. I'm looking at the article.
Cool. Well.
So,
Let's hand a pretty decent gaming history over to Bill and see what happens.
But we've also, gotten some indication that they might be looking to merge with Paramount a little bit on the streaming platform, like merging Paramount Plus and Max.
That part I feel like is inevitable. There are too many. They'll have to combine. We're not going to go full Highlander here, but some Highlander.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine. That's how Hulu started out, for God's sake, before Disney bought it.
Oh, man, Hulu was one of the ones originally called out in that writer's strike in the aughts.
Mm-hmm.
They were called out by name as being just the worst, and now they kind of technically don't really matter and exist anymore. The only reason you have a Hulu account at this point is because Hulu insists on putting stuff there that otherwise Disney, I think, owns.
Mm-hmm.
It's just silly.
But the thing about WB owning all of these cable networks that are slowly failing, all they're really doing is just playing reruns.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
So
has it started to kick back up at this point? Have streaming shows that lasted a few seasons managed to make their way into reruns and syndication? Because
some of them,
I figure that's inevitable. I just never stopped to check.
CBS has been doing some stuff where I
know Sundays, the old gotta have 100 rules probably not going to apply anymore.
It's interesting because CBS has been doing a thing where they will run recently on Sunday nights after 60 Minutes they run episodes of Tulsa King season 1 in preparation for Tulsa King season 2 on Paramount Plus exclusively. Sometimes they will air the first couple episodes of a new Star Trek season on CBS and be like, to catch the rest of the season, go to Paramount Plus and sign up. Last year they did the same thing. They did a marathon airing after 60 Minutes of Yellowstone, gearing up for something on. Maybe that was during the writer's strike and they just didn't have anything else to put on. But they're still utilizing it.
That is a good question. Is if the timing's there. If the timing really is just that this is the content I have that might hold your attention long enough for me to get you back to TV. That's one thing. But it is interesting who's leading whom. Because you could put the commercial on the streaming part or the commercial on the TV part, but either way, you're making an opportunity cost, right? You're not airing something else. So which one did you decide was worth taking the hit for? Because the other one's more beneficial.
I don't know. I think
I mean, if you're trying to do that using basically wasted space on your cable to get your streaming service up, if that's your business plan, it's a great plan.
Yeah. Like if you don't have anything else to air, especially during the writer's strike, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even now they're like, we don't want to come up with something else to spend money on. We've already spent the money on Yellowstone or Tulsa King or whatever the hell. Let's just air that, and maybe it'll get a few more people subscribed to whatever.
Yeah.
Because they're in a bad position where, like, especially like CBS, like the demo for CBS is like old people who don't want to do streaming, who don't understand streaming. They're mad about streaming, and one need only fall into a Facebook comment section to see that.
Yeah.
So there's sort of like, I don't know.
There really is a crowd that's like, well, you just
Preaching
tell me
to a room
what
of
time and what
atheists.
channel, or I don't care. Okay.
Yeah, they're just preaching to a room of atheists by going like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
so if you like that, check out Paramount Plus," and all the old people went, "Ah, I'm not doing that."
Sure, but like from 1 to 5 in the morning, are there still infomercials on cable? Are they still selling like Ginsu knives and fortune telling and shit?
I don't have cable. I don't know.
I don't know how that works anymore. But you can't be getting so much from the infomercial people if they still exist, not to be throwing some cable or some streaming episodes in there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You up in the middle of the night? Hey, check this out.
The revolution is coming. I just don't know when. Because 10 years ago, I told you radio was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, radio's still there.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I told you in 5 years, cable TV would be dead. No, cable TV is still there. It's dying, but it's still there. It's still going.
Is the next revolution a revolution of you discontinuing your declaration of people's deceased natures?
I mean, I think a lot of the stuff should have gone away.
It should have. It should have. Yeah, I think you will have to restrict yourself, unfortunately, to softer, versions of the word death in that sentence.
I was younger, but I was young.
No, and I don't disagree with either of the things you said. But they
wasn't really wrong.
No,
I just was optimistic on the timetable.
Yeah. I don't think you were wrong at the time or in any real way. They've died in any sense of the word that they meant when you said them, and that really is a thing. They've evolved beyond anything we really could measure or conceive at that time. I mean, that's because we were not the ones making a ton of money for being able to measure and conceive those things at that time.
Now look, no, let's be fair. One, I could have figured that it would have gone pretty much the way it has in terms of like how it's gone, but it's not on me. It's because I've always held that one bit from Cable Guy in my heart about how people will be watching TV on the World Wide Web and playing Mortal Kombat with a friend in Korea or whatever the hell it was. So I just got the idea from Cable Guy. It's not on me. But yeah, I mean, I think I could have guessed that I maybe did that we would have just been watching TV on computers and stuff, but
yeah.
It's hard to say where they're going to go from here because you have such a huge chunk of the population who are not willing to move on. And it's mostly old people probably, but stop being old people, y'all. Stop.
I mean, there is an inevitable end to that.
Yeah. What I mean by that is like, stop acting like old people. Stop growing so old and so inflexible that you've outlived your usefulness. And I fight that every day.
I do.
I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to listen to Sabrina Carpenter because I'm curious why people are into it.
I do.
You know what?
And
I liked it.
Yeah. I refuse to come to that myself. And I recently found a word called declinism that pretty well described it. But it's the nowadays crowd. Mm-hmm. Things definitely change, but then I'm not so naive as to say that they always get better at any given time or overall. Just depends on how and when you look at things. But for the most part, nowadays and these days is relative nonsense depending on what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
I mean, I woke up this morning and looked at all of my streaming apps to see what I was going to binge a little bit today because I'm having a pretty laid down weekend this weekend. So like, I was like, cool. I finished the show last night. I need to spend a few hours on the couch. What am I going to do with that? Let me look at all my streaming apps to see what they've got going on. It's the weekend. They might have hit me with something.
Yeah, my wife and I finished The Boys this week.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah. We needed something a little lighter, so we went back to Married with Children.
Yeah.
But
I need something a little bit lighter, so I watched the Nuremberg trials. I read Kim Jong-un's diary for a little while.
One of my friends sent me that picture of that Turkish dude shooting with his hand in his pocket, at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is that an Olympic thing? And she was like, yeah. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, man, he only got silver. Imagine if he'd given a fuck. Like, really? Really? I keep seeing people talk about that guy.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what exactly he did, but
he
only got silver.
Cool, apparently. Somebody debunked it, and it's mostly that's actually like a particular style he was using. He just looked really cool doing it. And then there was a whole ass parody article afterwards saying that basically he said no one knows where he came from. He just basically shows up, shoots a perfect round or a near perfect round, and then asks for it to smoke. And then I loved the story. I wish it was true. He said supposedly had said while accepting the medal something about like I just did this to spite my ex-wife, and Dorothy, if you're listening, I want our dog back or something like that. It would have made a hell of a story. I just wish it was true.
That is funny.
My favorite part of that was just somebody. I mean, it's fun to think about. Like, yeah, no, they made him come in number 2 because he's actually a secret agent if he takes the mustache off, or puts one on or whatever the hell it is. At some point, somebody said like, "Oh, Turkish John Wick," and the John Wick Twitter account just put "yeah" as the retweet.
Do you have anything else on this on the stocks and whatnot?
No. We're just gonna watch nature take its course.
Fair enough.
You don't have to sell, you don't have to buy, and you sure as hell don't have to worry that you're not going to see these fucking movies that we're all talking about. You'll be all right.
Yeah. One more thing. Do you want to hear a piece of nice feedback?
Sure.
Clark's Creek over on Apple Podcasts. This was on June 2nd, so we're a little late on this. Sorry, Clark's Creek.
Sorry.
Clark's Creek says, humorous and thoughtful DC discussion. David and Jason are thoughtful and kind individuals who provide knowledgeable and well thought out analysis of the DC universe. Not only that, but they have a hilarious sense of humor that consistently makes me laugh. Several years ago, David told a humorous anecdote on the podcast about saying to a fellow customer in a place of business, "I'm not real," in place of "I don't work here." And that's still an anecdote which I recount to others to this day. Even when I have pretty much a polar opposite opinion to the one that being expressed on this podcast, something that is almost inevitable to occur anytime The Dark Knight Rises comes up.
True.
I still find David and Jason so much fun to listen to. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
That is that's a nice piece of feedback.
It is. I forget about that phrase. I've heard that one live, and it was fantastic.
Man, I had a blown tire, and I needed a replacement, and I was just really tired.
Yeah. I
had to walk like miles to get to the place,
Yeah.
And the lady asked me a question, and I really meant to say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't work here." But what I said is, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not real." It's one of my favorite stories of mine too. Like, it doesn't get better than that. Like, you've heard it, you never have to listen to this show again.
It really was just for a second. Your soul just took over and spoke its truth. In that moment of weakness, all was revealed.
Uh-huh. I think it's going to wrap it for now. I know that there's other news, but I'm still sick and Jason's got some issues going on, so we're both in pain and ready to call it.
Yeah. That would suit me just fine today, sir.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for listening. Patreon.com/DC on Screen. We have been pretty good about putting up new content over there. Mm-hmm. So go check that out. $5 tier gets that extra content. The $1 tier just gets the normal episodes, but without ads. So, yeah. All right, I'm gonna go eat pizza.
As I said, I hate the ads. I usually spring for the dollar.
Buck isn't bad.
Yeah,
Buck isn't bad to get rid of ads. All right, well, until next time, which will be news because we've got other news that we can talk about, but we're not going to. So keep some DC on your screen.
No. This episode. It's keep some DC on your stream.
Fair enough.